Welcome to Stadium BS. For more information, check out www.castellonms.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. This is Frankie Castellon, and I have a podcast called Stadium BS. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, all you get is a tutorial computer screen, but it has some good resources, and I always start off by looking at our website. Well, my website for that matter, www.castellonms.com. That's CASTELLONMS.com. And you have everything, Frankie. Take a look. My YouTube channel, my story, all my stores and resale sites, everything. Even a little tab to support Frankie if you want to be generous to help a brother out. You can contact me at Frankie Castellon Caps. The handle is right down there if you're watching on YouTube. I have plenty of articles and resources and even books and even a song that I like to listen to. A review from Infamous C. Liking my stuff. So there's a lot of it to go around. Hey, you know what? I'm thinking about it right now. I'm going to see if I could strive to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most links on Linktree. Hey, that is a good goal to have, in addition to wanting a cap company and being a success podcaster. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Programming note. This is going to be episode 8. I was originally planning on doing the history of Rays ownership this past week, but here's the but. As of yesterday, September 30th, because today is October 1st, the sale went through for the Rays. It's a done deal. Patrick Zalupski and his group of members are the owners of the Rays. Stu Sternberg is technically gone. He has a 10% share. That's it. He's gone. So that's official. No red tape, nothing. It's done. Official. The reason why I'm pushing this to next week is because the actual introduction to, like, a press conference to introduce Patrick Zalupski, which you see in the picture, is actually going to be scheduled for October 7th. So after that press conference, I have plenty of articles to read from the past 20-some years. Actually 30 years, because I want to talk about when the Giants were trying to come here, which that was like very, very close. Why Vince Naimoli basically decided to sell the Rays, from a little rumor that I heard from a little birdie that they wanted to push him out too, and that's why they got into Sternberg. I don't know, but I have to do some more research on it, and I want to talk about that next week after this announcement, after this introduction to Patrick Zalupski and company. So we're going to have a lot to talk about that next week, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. So, what I wanted to talk about is, let me pull this up. Let me go back over here. The Tucson Toros. I'm going to show you why I have this picture, but to introduce my topic is, from the thumbnail, I'm going to be discussing Tucson Electric Park. That was the first ever name for this new stadium that was built in 1998. It's about to hit its 30-year anniversary in about a few years. So I would say, 27 years? Maybe? Yeah, 27 years. And to me, that's still fairly new. And originally, this was a brand spanking new stadium to have both the Diamondbacks, which were newly incepted at the time, and what was the other team? The Chicago White Sox. So it was a brand new facility, and pretty much after 10 or so years, they left. So I'm going to explain why. So to give you insight of Kino Veterans Memorial Stadium, I call it Tucson Electric Park. This is built in 1998, owned by Pima County, and it is a huge complex. A bunch of baseball fields. Now they added soccer field, a soccer stadium, softball, etc. But it was originally made for spring training. Okay? So they've maintained it throughout the years after spring training left. So I'm going to explain why spring training left. Now, before I do that, I want to explain a couple of history lessons about Tucson in general in spring training. One of them was they filmed on location the movie Major League. And it was involving the Cleveland Indians, of course, and that was their spring facility, which was known as, there was one facility next to this stadium, which was called High Corbett Field. And that's where they filmed Major League. And it connects to last week's topic from the news you didn't know. High Corbett Field was the Indians facility at one time frame, filmed Major League. And then it was around the same time frame that Homestead, city of Homestead, was trying to lure the team to Homestead, Florida. And they were neck and neck trying for Winter Haven to get the Indians back in the early 90s. We know what happened. When it came to Homestead, it got wiped out by Hurricane Andrew. So guess who took it? The Gulf Coast area. Well, Central Florida, which is Winter Haven. And they played a certain time frame in the Winter Haven before they went back to Arizona in the city of Goodyear. Going back to Tucson, they had originally 3 teams in the late 90s. The Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the White Sox. So in 1998, when the Diamondbacks were formed, they wanted to play in Tucson. There was a brand spanking new stadium. They have a brand spanking new stadium as their regular home at the time, Bank One Ballpark, now Chase Field. So they got all the bells and whistles. So this was also famous. This stadium was Randy Johnson's pitch that killed a bird. I think it was killed a pigeon. So he threw it, and then all you see, poof, bunch of feathers. That's where it was located, which was in Tucson. And basically, it was a hotspot for spring training. Now, almost a decade later, the Chicago White Sox was in talks in order to share a facility in Glendale, Arizona, to share with the Los Angeles Dodgers a brand spanking new facility in Glendale. And so here's what they did. They paid $5 million to opt out of their lease. Mind you, they were there not even 10 years in, maybe 10 years in. I would say 2008, 2009. And they just bolted. So, with that lease technically broken, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies follow suit. The Rockies at the time were also playing in High Corbett Field after the Indians left, so they still use that stadium. And basically they said, oh, I found a good opportunity with a tribe, and we're going to be sharing a new facility out in Scottsdale, which was known as Salt River Fields at Talking Stick. Now, I'm going to show you a Google Maps of this distance. Okay? This is down here, Tucson. A 2-hour drive to Salt River Fields at Talking Stick. Now, within that vicinity in the Phoenix area, Glendale is, if I remember correctly, further west. I'm not familiar with Arizona. I'm not familiar with the West Coast. So, basically, they moved all around the Phoenix area, leaving Tucson without a baseball team at all. Brand new facility at the time, not even used for 10 years, and they lost 3 teams like that. Just like Oakland, within a span of 5 years. So now you understand the reason why I'm talking about this. It was left, not abandoned, but it has been used, and it's funny because the stadium is also a rebound for minor league baseball too, believe it or not. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures. They were also a minor league facility for the San Diego Padres, also known as the Tucson Padres. Now, the Padres situation for AAA is that they were trying to get a brand new facility in a suburb in California. I'm not sure where, probably a suburb in San Diego, but that all fell through. And while they were negotiating with El Paso to build a new stadium, they spent a couple seasons in Tucson because it was still a good facility. And this is what the uniform looked like at the time. It was back in 2011, 2012, 2013. And that's what the hat looked like, which was the traditional Padre. And then you see on the bat, it said Tucson on it. So it was a pretty cool combination. And there was a time frame that they actually did a Toros night, which, as you can see right here, they were the Toros at one time. It was like a retro night. So here was my take. They abandoned it, and they made the ballpark facility a Spirit Halloween. Now, this is Sacramento. I was making fun of them earlier. Like, they're going to abandon it for Las Vegas, and they're going to make this into a Spirit Halloween in October. But that's what I thought about Arizona, Tucson, Arizona as well. So, with that being said, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling on, they were left abandoned. And this is still a fairly beautiful facility. So how are they going to have baseball? They added soccer, which was great. And High Corbett, which is the older facility, this was actually built in the 1930s, they have a good little happy ending when the University of Arizona got a lease in the facility. I don't know if they bought the facility or got the lease. Let me know in the comments. So this is what it looks like today, all for Arizona baseball, which is wonderful, and they're fairly a pretty good team if I remember correctly. So they really redone it and made it into a college facility, which looks freaking awesome. Everything looks top notch. Okay, beautiful facility. I'm happy they did that, and happy ending for them. So I want to dive in more onto Kino Stadium, okay? They couldn't, after the Padres left in 2013, they really didn't have much of a tenant. So they went into the Picos League. Now, the Picos League is pretty much a semi-pro league from what I understand. I'm not entirely too sure. Maybe someone can refresh my memory or refresh my knowledge towards it. But they did have a baseball team called the Seguros. I know I'm Spanish, but there's certain terms I cannot pronounce to save my life. And they've been here since 2016, but Do they get a draw? From what it looks like in the picture, yeah. I'm like, on and off. But this is during the summer months, so it must be really hot. But I don't think it draws. I've never heard of them until now, but this is one of their pro teams. And but what really caught me intrigued about this facility is what they're going to use it now for. They're also going to get winter ball. I forgot to mention, before I mentioned the winter ball, this was actually a site for the qualifying matches of the World Baseball Classic for 2026. This happened this past year, the qualifiers. So, like I said, rebound. Now, this is for summer ball. Now we're going to go into winter ball that they're having for this year. Actually, in the next couple weeks or so. So I'm going to go into the Mexican Pacific League. This is one of the big-time pro baseballs of it's basically a winter ball league in Mexico, which develops those pros that are trying to get into spring training, getting those invites in or getting a contract. This is what they go through, the winter leagues, and they're just as good as the major leaguers or even minor leaguers for that matter. So the Mexican Pacific League is very popular, has all these teams right here, and they had a team at the time called Los Mayos de Navajoa. Tell me I said that correctly. Mayos de Navajoa, which I am Mayan actually. My descent is Mayan because my grandfather's from Nicaragua. So they played originally in Navajoa, Sonora. And this was a team that lasted since the 50s. So this league is historic. But they couldn't get a good deal on their stadium. So guess what they did? They moved out of this stadium. So where are they going to go? They're going to go to Tucson. And they're going to become the Tucson baseball team. From what I understand, this is the first U.S. team in the Mexican Pacific League. And this is historic. This is going to be awesome. Kino Veterans Memorial Stadium is a very top-notch facility still. And Tucson, Arizona has put in so much work in it, and they want to get a good tenant. They got one for the Pecos League in the summer. Now they're going to have one into Winter League, which I hope this is a good draw. I really think so. Okay? Let all the spring training facilities in Phoenix, let those 15 teams play there. Tucson, on the other hand, I think it has its own unique history, and I'm very intrigued on how this is going to go. I had the courage to email media for the Tucson baseball team to ask some questions about it. Hopefully, I'll get a response. Maybe. I don't know. But in all honesty, it is a happy ending for this stadium. It still has its history of spring baseball. They tried their very best to get spring training back. A few years back, they actually were trying to lure the Brewers before the Brewers did their renovations on their spring facility. They tried. But luxury, number one, they needed the best of the best in their facilities. And the Phoenix cities that have these facilities, they are top notch. They're still used to this very day. Okay? and ownership and the cities and the tribes associated with these stadiums, they're making it top notch, and that's key. It has to be the best for their major league team. That was one reason. The other one is location. They did not want to drive those 2 hours from Tucson to Phoenix, as you can see here. Now, my argument with that is, if you go to the state of Florida, you do have your Gulf Coast teams that do spring, and then the Atlantic League teams. And sometimes they coincide. And sometimes the drive is up to 2 hours. But I digress. So it's more leaning towards luxury versus travel time. Travel time was also a bonus towards it. So that is pretty much what I am going to cover today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I rambled on a little bit, but this was really, really interesting, and this was a lot of reading to do. Okay? And I'm very happy that it does have a happy ending. Miami FC made a happy ending in Homestead. You know, they're trying. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is, even though Major League Baseball abandoned them, they're trying to make the best in order to use the facility as a top-notch facility for someone else. And that's something that always caught my eye for many, many years. And a lot of them, it pains me when I see something that's abandoned by Major League Baseball. Look at Oakland, look at Montreal. Look at certain spring facilities, certain minor league facilities. I'm like, I'll give you a great example that was left abandoned to rot. Cooper Stadium in Columbus. That was supposed to be a automotive facility to test out and make a track on it. Obviously, that didn't fall through. And one of the grandstands is pretty much left there. And left abandoned, left at high risk, weeds and trees and crime all over it. And it just saddens me. You know, it saddens me a lot. And I think that these facilities should be treated like, you know, like their dog, their child. You know, don't just abandon them when things are not up to par to your standards. Take love and care. It's the same thing with me if I ever do buy a house. Love and care. I'm not going to just sell it and abandon it. No. And I think that's where my love of baseball comes in facilities. And this is the reason why I started Stadium BS for that. Because if you have it, make it worthwhile. I said that about the Trop. The Trop had an opportunity to get demolished, but, you know, contract's a contract. And that's how I feel. That is how I feel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I did a little ramble onto it. I didn't really feel like I needed to get pissed off because this is one that is a happy ending. I am wearing a Yankees hat. I'm upset about that loss last night, that they left, that they didn't score any runs with the bases loaded. I wasn't happy about that. Not a lot of Yankee fans were, but I digress. I hope they bounce back in the wild card. We'll see what happens. But for right now, I'm done with this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can watch it on YouTube, but preferably take a look at it on any podcast platform such as Apple Music, Spotify, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, plus many more. It would be a great listen while you're taking a drive, going to work, in addition to working on the job. If you have a Bluetooth headset, hey, this is a perfect podcast for you. Maybe you learned something today. Maybe not. Maybe you get entertained. Maybe when you go to bed, you could listen to this podcast and use this. Sorry about that. I had technical difficulties. My timer went off, and I didn't realize that I pressed the wrong button. But anyway, take a listen. Support the channel. Frankie Castle on Caps, as you can see below me. And take a look, www.castleonms.com. I have everything. Please take a look at it. If you have any suggestions on future videos, please let me know. DM me. I have a contact. You can contact me in any platform that there is there. You can go to the website. You can contact me. My main poison is Instagram. Message me there. Comment on YouTube. You can message me on TikTok. Okay, stop that. No. You can save my contact info too. Yeah, just to let you know. You could message me on Threads, Facebook. You know, there's not a reason you can't get a hold of me. Anyway, until then, have a good one. God bless.
Thank you for watching on YouTube, and thank you for listening on your favorite podcast platform.